All right, everybody. Hey, welcome to our podcast. Thanks for joining us live on Facebook and YouTube, Family First Life USA page. I'm excited to share tonight with a friend of mine, the first person I ever met in the insurance profession, Mr. David Ayer from FFL Paradise.
How you doing?
I'm doing great, David. It's good to have you on. Man, I'm super excited. This has been a long time coming. When did we first meet? What year was it, David? Like 2013?
Yeah, about 2013. It's been a while.
Yeah, but time flies when you're having fun. So for those that don't know David's story, I'm going to let you get into it a little bit so people get to know you. But David's team is they're on a tear. I mean, they're senior vice president with the company right now, soon to be executive vice president. Best month is $375,000 issue paid. That's quite an accomplishment. And the thing I love about David's story is it's a little unorthodox. You know, he didn't grow up dreaming to be an insurance agent, for sure. But he's come quite a long way with us, and I'm excited to have you on the team, David. So, tell us a little bit about your background. Where did you start out, and how did you find your way to Family First Life?
Well, when I started out, my dad always told me you got to go to college, get a good education, get a career, and so I did all that, and soon found out I didn't really like the corporate life. So I started my own business. I was a trash man.
Yep.
And I did that for, close to 20 years. And had an accident at work, broke my hip, and just had a lot of issues going on. And I just was getting too much pain going through it. And 2008 and 9 hit, and the construction business really took a dive. Went through a lot of my savings, having a hard time making bills meet, refinanced my house, kind of lived off of that. And then I had a friend of mine introduce me to the insurance business, and he said, you should get some mortgage protection for your house. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense. So I went ahead and I got the coverage put in place, and then I just started talking to a lot of my friends in construction, asking them. I said, "Hey," I said, "if you got killed on the job, or if you died of a heart attack, what's going to happen? You got a wife, you got kids, you've got a house." And they're like, "I don't know." And I said, "You got to talk to my insurance guy, because I got this protection put in place. If I die, then my house gets paid off, and my family will be taken care of." So I started sending all this business to my agent. And he at one point just told me, he says, "Do you ever think about getting your insurance license?" I go, "Why would I do that?" He says, "Well, because you're sending me all this business and I'm making money off you." He goes, "You should sell it yourself." And I said, "Well, what do I need to do?" He says, "Well, you just need to take this course online and pass the test and get going." So I took the course. California only needed a D-, and I didn't get that. So I got frustrated, and I said, "Forget it. I'm not going to be insurance." I said I couldn't see myself selling insurance. And my wife got on my back, and she told me, she says, "Look, you studied for 52 hours. She said, "You get your butt in there and take that test again." So I took it again. I passed it. So I called him up, and I said, "Hey, I passed my test. What do I do now?" He's all, "Start selling insurance." So,
Nice.
yeah, so I started doing it on the side, and as time was going on, I was making more money selling insurance than I was with my business. So eventually I ended up selling my business and started doing this full time.
Yeah.
And that brought me into the insurance business.
And that was like 2008, 2009, right? That was a bad economy, yeah?
Yeah, it was right after that. About 2000, I think 10 or 11 is when I really got into it.
And that's the thing that I think a lot of people watching, David, should think about, is the fact that we're possibly entering an economy because of the pandemic and everything else that's happened that's really similar. And insurance got your attention at that time because business wasn't going as great as it used to, right?
Right.
Construction was drying up, which he wasn't just a trash man, folks. He cleaned up construction sites, but he hauled the trash off. He spent a lot of time at the dump.
A lot of time at the dump.
So that's what gets me really excited about the future with Family First, because we issued $325 million last year, but we really haven't scratched the surface when it comes to the opportunity, because there's so many people that are looking for opportunity right now. And then fast forward, a few years when you were introduced to Family First Life, because you started somewhere else.
Right.
And what was that like? What was that eye opening for you, starting somewhere else and then coming to Family First? Was it a stark difference? Because I talk to a lot of people that are, other places, and they think, man, it must just be too good to be true.
Well, when you finally called me after a couple of years, and you started talking to me about the possibilities of working with you guys, and I'm just like, no, I'm not going to do it. I think I'm just going to stay where I'm at. I had moved on and was kind of doing insurance on my own, which is really tough.
Yeah.
And you finally came to the point and said, look, just meet me and Andrew for lunch. We'll sit down and we'll just lay it all on the line. And it's really ironic because everything that I was told about Family First Life was the total opposite. Because once I sat down with the two of you and you guys opened my eyes and I saw what it was really like, I mean, between you, Andrew, Paul, and Sean, Mike, I mean, I can literally say you guys are family.
Yeah.
Because you guys have my back.
We do.
The other place didn't.
Yeah.
And there's been opportunities that have come up where I've needed help with things and I've gotten it. I feel that I can call you, I can call Paul, I can call Andrew at any time, and you guys will talk to me. In the past, trying to get a hold of somebody was like pulling teeth. I mean, the person that was in charge of the other place, I don't think I've ever really spoken to. And I've spoken to Sean Mike on many occasions, and he treats you like he really cares.
Right.
He really cares about everybody.
Yeah, and it's eye-opening. It's refreshing. And the idea of family first, there's a lot of connotation to that. It's, putting the families first, putting the families of the agents first. We are family first. Like, there's a lot of different ways you can spin it, but all of it's been true. And what I love about what's happened with you is when you started with this, you just didn't hit the ground killing it the first day. Like, it's been a process, but
Right.
your agency is really probably going to double in the next 90 days. I'd be surprised if it didn't. There's a lot going on under the surface.
Yeah.
So what do you attribute a lot of that success to?
I'm not trying to brown nose you, but to you.
Oh,
Because I mean, you've always told me, just stay consistent in what you do, work every day. Try and bring two people every day that don't know about Family First Life to knowing about Family First Life. And I've done that in the core people that I have working with me right now. I kind of have instilled that in them. And so it's not just me doing it now. Now I've got like 4 or 5 groups of people doing the same thing that I'm doing. And it's funny because I remember you guys saying, getting to your first 150,000 a month is tough. And it was tough. But once you get there, the floodgates just open and things just start happening. And, we've, the last 2 weeks in a row, we've submitted over 160,000 for the week.
Wow.
And, I was shocked when I did that, for a month,
right.
So, I mean, we're looking at probably, I'm thinking February we'll probably do about 300,000.
Yeah.
And March, April, we're looking at 400 or 500.
Issued. Yeah. I believe that's the truth. So for the people one of the things that I like to explain to people too about David is David has consistently been one of the top salespeople in our agency. And he's always running appointments. He's always on the phone. He's really great on the phone. He's always booked his own appointments. He doesn't try to shortcut any of it. He has a staff. He's building a real company. He's doing all the right stuff. But it wasn't always that way. You kind of resist it as far as the real company part. Like, you probably waited too long to get an employee. And
Yeah, I definitely did.
What's been a big change for you in that regard?
Well, a lot of the technical stuff that, it's people get so tied up in thinking if I don't do it myself, it's not going to get done right.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was so resistant to letting go. And I finally got an assistant that is awesome, and she does stuff for me. Her name's Brittany.
Yeah.
And she does stuff for me that just, it's like going,
I didn't even know that could be done.
Yeah,
I didn't even know
I
that was a
mean,
thing.
I can do that. And it's like, Instagram, what's that? She goes, oh, I'll set you up. I mean, there's just all these, I mean, emails, and she's just getting everything all tied together. And when it comes to sending out recruiting emails and just follow up and
Yeah.
contracting, all this stuff that I was doing on my own, and I'm like, oh, why the heck didn't I do this a long time ago?
Right.
So everybody out there, if you don't have an assistant, get one. It's well worth it. And my first thought was, how am I going to afford it? And it was like, now it's like, how can I not afford it?
Exactly. And what's it freed you up to do more of?
It frees me up to spend a lot more time with agents that are having issues in the home, that have questions of like how to build. I've got some agents in Kentucky. Matter of fact, he just called me up and says, "Hey, we're thinking about having a meeting out here. We got 15 new agents coming out." And I go, "Okay, I'll come out."
Right.
And so I'm booking the flight and everything. And I was talking to my wife, and she's all, that's next weekend, right? I'm like, it is? She's all, yeah. I said, well, I guess I'll be in Kentucky next weekend.
Right.
But, yeah, I mean, I don't have to worry about all the little monotonous things that I used to do. And then I've got another guy that's works on doing recruiting for me, and I don't have to worry about setting up the first interview, calling them, sending out emails, sending out the class, sending out the assurance bay. I don't do any of that anymore. And, it's so funny how often we've heard Sean say, have somebody do what you don't want to do, or have somebody do the things that you don't need to do so you can be freed up to do other things. And there's a lot of stuff that a lot of managers here that you could ask them a question about something technical, like, I don't know, you got to ask my assistant.
Right.
Or, and it's getting to that point now where I'm getting the same thing. It's like, well, how do you do this? I don't know. You got to call Brittany. I don't know. Call Ken. I don't know.
Right.
And it's so awesome that you don't even have to think about that anymore.
Right. And you can just focus on the things that make you the most money. And that's why the business is exploding. I think that, and one of the things you've always been really good at is helping new agents actually start. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people overcomplicate the process. And when you're freed up to do that, instead of being on the phone with a carrier trying to figure something out, there's really nobody better at it. So walk us through the process of getting someone started. Like, if somebody wanted to join you today, I mean, what do you do with that person? How do you get that person from, just starting out to going out and issue paying? I think the number one writer in your agency last week did $28,000 for the week.
Yeah.
I mean, how does that happen from, somebody just getting licensed to, a year later being able to issue that kind of business?
Well, I mean, you've got to spend the time with the people that want to work.
Right.
Ali's a perfect example. I mean, he's just someone that just is really, really wants to make it happen. And he called me yesterday, and he says, David, he says, I'm doing good, but he goes, how do I get bigger premiums in the home? I mean, this is a guy that's writing $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a month.
Right.
And I said, I listened to Elaine. She said, do this. Don't just show them what you think they can afford. Say, hey, you know what? Let me show you what you actually qualify for, the maximum amount, and then I'll show you different steps down, show you what, say they're looking at a burial plan for $10,000. Mm-hmm. Well, this is what we're looking at, but this is what you actually qualify for is $30,000, and it's going to be $295 a month.
Right.
And then $20,000 would be $195, and $10,000 would be $90.
Right.
And believe it or not, people will pick the higher one. I mean, I don't know how many times I've done it where I think, well, they can't afford it, so I'm not going to show it to them. How much money have I left on the table? So I had that conversation with Ali yesterday morning.
Right.
And he texts me a couple hours later. He's like, dude, I wrote 3 policies so far. I'm at $9,000. I'm like, really? He says, yeah. And then he texts me about an hour later. I just wrote another one. I'm at 12.
Wow.
So he got $12,000 in 4 policies. I said, so that little tweak you made is working? He's all, yeah.
Yeah. And it's a small thing. And, the thing that's interesting about that is Ali is consistently, I mean, he issued over $300,000 last year. Mm-hmm. He'll definitely do over $400,000 this year.
His goal is 5 to 7.
I believe he can do it.
Yeah.
I absolutely believe he can do it.
Yeah.
But that was proper coaching. Show people what they can qualify for. You know, don't buy it with your own pocketbook.
Yeah.
What do you do as far as, because you're still running appointments. You run business. You run, how many days a week do you go out?
4.
You go out 4 days. And what do you run mostly?
Final expense and mortgage protection.
Got it. Okay. So let's do some phone script training. So call me up. I'm 66 years old. What do you say to set an appointment? I'm a final expense appointment.
Okay. Ring, ring.
Hello?
Trey.
Hi.
Hey, Trey, this is David. I was just getting back with you. You recently had filled out this little card we mailed you. It was for the final expense life insurance. It's that insurance that's affordable that pays for your funeral, burial, or cremation. You put down that you were 67 years old. Does that ring a bell?
Yes.
Okay, great. Hey, Trey, I'm the field underwriter here in Mojave County. I'm actually going to be in Bullhead tomorrow about 5, let's back up. I'm actually being Bullhead tomorrow.
Yeah?
I just need about maybe 10 minutes to swing by and drop off the information to you to see what you qualify for. Take about 10 minutes. Are you working or are you retired?
I'm retired.
Okay, great. Do you have any doctor's appointments tomorrow?
No.
Okay, I've got a 10 o'clock or I got a 1 p.m., which would work better for you. Take about 10 minutes.
10 o'clock.
10 o'clock, great. All right, Trey. So are you married or are you single?
I'm married.
You're married? Okay, great. What's your wife's name?
Jure.
Jure. Okay. How do you spell that?
J-E-R
J-E-R.
apostrophe R-A-Y.
R-A-Y. I would have never figured that out. Okay, thank you.
Right.
All right, so here's what's going to happen. I'll show up at, what time did I tell you?
10 o'clock.
10 o'clock, that's right. 10 o'clock tomorrow. I've got your address here as 123 Main Street.
Yep.
Okay, is your address, is it on the mailbox or is it on the door or is it on the street?
Both.
Both.
Mailbox, door, street.
Okay, great. Now, is there any codes that I need to get in or is it a gated community or?
Nope.
Okay, fantastic. All right, so just let DeRay know that my name is David, and I'll be there about 10 o'clock tomorrow. Give me about maybe 15, 20 minutes either side of the hour just because of traffic, and I've got about 10 other families I'm going to be helping, okay?
Okay.
All right, and I drive a black Honda Civic, so when you see me, if I drive past your house a couple times, just wave me down, all right?
Yes. And I look like David Hasselhoff.
Well, I've heard that. I won't be wearing a bathing suit.
You should say that on the thing. That works good. Well, a couple things about what David did there. So I'm a big fan of that. So we're shooting this this podcast. We're doing this in Las Vegas, and they're dialing today. And what's cool is I've heard a bunch of people out there dialing, and I heard a couple people say, yeah, it only takes 15, 20 minutes. I've always been a big fan of it only takes 10 minutes. 10 minutes is a big difference.
Yeah.
Like if somebody's teetering on whether or not they should let you come over, if you say 15 or 20, I'm saying no. You say 10, I'll say yes, and you can stay an hour. It's okay.
I've never had anybody say, hey, you said it was only going to be 10 minutes.
Ever.
Never.
Right. The whole point of the phone is to just set the appointment.
Just get in the house.
Yep. What do you see with when new agents start dialing, what's some of the biggest obstacles you think that they run into?
Just coming up with trying to overcome the objections.
Yeah. What are some common ones you think?
I already got it taken care of.
What do you do for that?
Perfect. My job is just to get the information out to you. You probably filled out several of these different forms, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, great. You're most likely trying to see if you can get the best price. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Okay,
right.
Trey. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come out. I'm going to bring out the information to you. Have your policy available. We'll look it over. If I can put you in a better position, we can. If not, great. We'll just sign off and I'll be on my way.
Right. I love that. Well, it's super assumptive. You know your lines. I think that's one of the things that, like when I talk to new people that are brand new and they're just getting started, I just let them know, after you get enough practice at this, it'll just roll off your tongue. You'll know exactly what to say and when to say it, what questions to ask back. And I think people just they aren't patient enough with themselves when they first start out. But after you've made, thousands of phone calls, it becomes pretty simple.
Yeah, and I just make it real simple. I mean, most of my phone scripts are 30 seconds, a minute. Mm-hmm. I don't get into a lot of detail. I'm just setting the appointment, confirming that they're going to be there.
Right.
Yeah.
So how much do you invest a month in leads, you think?
Not enough. I would say 1,200 maybe.
1,200 a month. Yeah. Got it. And the thing is, David has an organization. It's growing. He's consistently writing. I've always appreciated that about you too, because you hire a ton of people. Like you're really good at hiring people and getting them started, but you weren't always out there writing 40 grand a month. There's been plenty of months you have.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, but it's been interesting to watch as the business has grown how you've appropriately, stepped back at times. So I'm a big fan of that. What's your lead strategy for new people when they start out? What do you try to get them to do?
Right now, it's the instant internet leads,
Yeah.
and in the very beginning, I struggled with it, but it was because I was calling them manually. I've got agents now that have. The deal is you got to get enough leads to where you can make it work. So
Right.
if you buy at least 100 of those instant internet leads, it's $1,100. I have a brand new agent. She just recently got her license.
Really recently.
Really recently.
Right.
She went to the conference, and she did everything Matt and I told her to do. We told her to get 100 of the instant internet leads, and she went to an area in California that was a little bit of a drive for her, but they were available there, and she booked 12, 14 appointments off of those things.
Nice.
And she wrote just this week. She wrote, I think it was $5,400.
Got it.
Very, 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 very first week out in the field. Just got her license,
Right.
and it's working. Matt Goodrich that's all he's doing now. He's just doing internet leads. He just went on a travel trip to California.
Wrote 12,000.
$12,000,
Yeah.
and it's like it's a game changer because a lot of times you have these issues where your direct mail, they start slowing down.
Right. Well, they
And-
slowed down. We had that big freeze in Texas, and I can't tell you. I
Yeah.
mean, Texas is like its own country, and so it was frozen, and so there was less leads coming.
Yeah.
But with instant internet leads, we haven't missed a beat, and they're $11, and a lot of the direct mail are 5-6 times more than that.
Right,
So
right.
whether or not you're getting more people that whatever the excuse would be, I mean, you can't convince me that the ones that are 5-6 times more are 5-6 times better, because they're definitely
No,
not.
because I've got agents that are telling me now that they're getting more premium on these instant internet leads.
Absolutely.
And I can definitely say that's one of the reasons why our agency is exploding, is because we're able to get leads in the agent's hands.
That's
And-
all it
and-
is.
And they're able to go out and actually sit in the seats and meet with people and get their business taken care of.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. And I think that's always kind of been the secret to Family First, is we've always been on the cutting edge of leads and lead types and delivery and ways to get the leads in people's hands, and the right mindset. It's presumptive and it's assumptive. I mean, people don't request information just to request information.
Right.
They actually did want it before you called them.
And,
So
and you don't have to wait 3 or 4 weeks till leads start coming in anymore.
yeah,
They're just there. They're instant internet leads.
right. I love it. And it's been making a big difference. And
Yeah.
I think, especially with Shannon, the agent you were talking about, just with her story, $5,400 in deposits is life changing.
Right.
A lot of people don't make that in a full month. And so when you can go out and work a week when you're just starting out, not really know what you're doing, and still be able to do that just because you listen to the trainings, you plug in and everything, I think after you've been in the business for a while and you're making a lot more money than that, you forget what it's like to be new and just how big of an impact that is when you're brand new. And that first month you make an extra $5,000. Is she part-time or is she doing it full-time?
She's full time now.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, that didn't take long.
No,
She got
no.
full-time quick.
She's like, if I could clone her,
Yeah.
we'd be $1 million agency in no time.
In a few weeks. Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be fast. So one of the things I'm wondering, you've written a considerable amount of business in the advanced markets as well. Tell us about that and how you kind of morphed into annuities and IULs and where that came from.
Yeah, it's really funny. It really goes back about, 8 years ago or so. I just was really intrigued by Matt Smith because he was just a superstar in writing annuities. And I remember I met him in the bathroom one time. I started talking to him. He's like, dude, we're not talking here. But I just kind of, the golden question, do you have anything that acts like life insurance, like a 401k and annuity, stocks, bonds, anything like that, money under the mattress? And just asking that question, you'd be surprised how many people have stuff like that. I mean, I've gone to people that live on a dirt road in a broken down mobile home that had, $100,000 sitting in a 401k that they weren't touching.
Yeah.
And so I just ask that question every time.
Yeah.
And it works out really well. I've had clients where they literally don't have money to purchase any insurance, but they've got 100 grand in a 401k that they're just sitting on.
Yeah. Yeah. They're convinced they don't have the money to buy the insurance,
Yeah.
but they got 100 grand in a 401k.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the neat thing too. When you're properly doing the financial inventory in the home, you uncover other opportunities. And, you look at something like that. You told me a long time ago that it's easier to write an annuity application than it is to write a life insurance application.
Yeah.
And I didn't believe that at first, but you said there's less to it. You just roll
Yeah.
it. It's the same thing if it's $1 million or 100,000,
Right.
So, and you've been able to teach and mentor a lot of people in the organization to do the same thing. And that has to feel good.
Yeah. I truly like helping people. I mean, I help people just about every week.
Yeah, we have an
Doing
agent
it.
in Wisconsin, and she's not even under you, and you've helped her close several annuities. She's super grateful about that.
Yeah, she told me, she's all, yeah, my husband loves when he talks to you because you make him money.
That's awesome.
So
That's awesome. Well, I love everything you're doing. Tell us about the future of FFL Paradise. Where do you see this thing going? And I know you have one of the things that's neat to watch is just the leadership that's emerging within the organization. There's several different leaders within the organization that, quite honestly, if me and you both died, they'd do it without us. And I think that's when, like when you were talking about earlier, like getting to 150,000, they said that was the hardest. And then it would be easier after that. It's really because of those layers of leadership down underneath.
absolutely.
They're going to do it with or without us.
Yeah.
And do you feel like we've reached the peak, or where do you think this thing's going?
Heck no. I'm truly convinced we'll be at $1 million by the end of the year.
Yeah,
I've got
$1 million a month by the end of the year.
$1 million a month. I've got a couple people under me that I wouldn't be surprised if they're at $1 million a month
Right.
by the end of the year.
Yeah, in fact,
You know.
a couple of them, that's their goal. I think they're going to get
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
So that's wild.
And it's I get satisfaction out of watching people I work with excel.
Yeah,
What happens to me is going to happen. If I focus on myself, then nothing's going to happen. But I really look forward to seeing people I work with make a difference in their own lives. Matter of fact, Matt was just telling me this morning, he's like, dude, I had my best income month ever.
wow,
And he's been doing this for
11 years.
11 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, it's funny. It's just like, I was talking with him for 3 years. Tell him, I says, dude, you've got to come over here, man. I says, it's so much better. So much better.
Right.
And he was kind of like with me, and just like didn't believe it, but kind of believed it, but was kind of scared. And once he finally made that choice, he's like, gosh, he goes, I wish I would have done this years ago. And I told you the same thing. Why didn't I come over when you
Right.
guys came over?
Well, when you look at the fabric of the coast to coast agency, even all of Family First Life USA, if you really go through the leaderboards, what you will find is there's a lot of warm market friends of friends, people that got started with us that weren't licensed before and just got started. And I pretty much your whole organization is somebody's friend that got started with us.
Yeah.
And it's just over time, everybody loves each other. There's no drama. Everybody gets along.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
Talk about cloning. I wish I could clone that, all over. That's one of the best parts about FL Paradise. So,
Yeah, I would say probably 85% of my agency is all warm market.
yeah. And even people you hired off of ads, or they went and hired their friends,
Right,
and
right.
birds of a feather flock together. So if you hired a licensed agent from somewhere else, just because it's such an easy thing to share with people, because it does make a lot of sense. It is the Rogue IMO for a reason. It's different. So, well, anything you want to leave off with before we shut it down?
I just want to thank you for reaching out to me 4 years ago. Finally,
You're welcome.
it's been a life changer. I mean, it's coming over here. This gets me all the time, but I was able to get my wife not to work anymore.
Yeah.
We got no bills.
Yeah.
And I just remember, the conversation with Andrew. I said, Andrew, do you think it would be a good idea if I sold my house in California, moved to my vacation home in Lake Havasu, and ran business, lived where I run my business? And he's well, I won't say what he said, but yeah, basically he's like, yeah, you'd be stupid not to. And I pretty much cut out all my expenses just so I could run my business and run it without having to worry about, I can't make my house payment this month, because that's where I was at the other company.
Right.
I was on stage getting all these awards, but I was broke.
Yeah.
And here I'm able to actually run a business and pay for things like assistance, and I can buy leads for agents when they need it, and I'm able to help people, and the other thing too is like I'm able to give back more than I've ever been able to in my life. So we're just at a point now where thank you, Sean, Mike. Thank you, Andrew, Paul, Trey, for giving me the opportunity to be able to do something like this, because it's a life-changing experience, and it's just getting better and better every day.
Well, thank you. I appreciate everything you've done. So thank you, everybody. Thanks for joining our podcast. We'll have another special guest next week. But if you're interested in connecting with David, how can people find you? Give them your phone number, David.
My phone number is 626-233-5244.
All right.